You, with a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of logs, and a hammer and some nails, can build the structure that he's showing you.
So I decided to shift gears a little bit. I was originally going to do a saddle notch log cabin. That's how I've always built mine. I think they look sweet, and I've gotten pretty efficient at it, but I want to
So with the saddle notch ones, are you would probably see if you've looked in log cabin building at all, it's where they carve out a little section on the bottom and top of logs, and then they fit together, kind of like Lincoln Logs, the toy.
kind of try something different, and I'm going to go with a method that's it's the easiest method that there is, and it's also very fast. So it's going to be the button pass method. They look really nice, I think, and like I said, anybody can do them. There's no notching. It's just cut your logs to length and spike them on. So regardless of what your construction experience is, you'll be able to build this.
This is almost exactly what you would expect it to be if you just kind of designed building log cabins yourself without any former knowledge. Because doing the ones with notches and stuff is a little more complicated. But if you have nails at your disposal, you would take a different approach entirely.
Here's how easy this method is. I got my first 2 logs set up here. I'm going to spike them down into those logs on the corners. Then we are going to cut a log to length to fit in between these 2 on both sides. We're going to spike that down into this log to fasten them in place. Then our next one is going to go on this wall, and I'm going to spike it down into this log and this log and this log, and that'll tie the corners together and make it really solid. That'll make more sense as we get going here.
Yeah, keep in mind there's a few other things going on in this video that unless you're watching farm, you don't realize.
So these they're galvanized spikes. You can find these.
He's already building on a foundation of rocks, so the building is up off the ground. So you don't have to build like a solid foundation all the way along, but you do not want the logs to be down in the dirt because then they'll end up rotting.
These at any hardware store. I mean, Lowe's, Home Depot, Is Hardware. I've seen them everywhere I go, pretty much. They come in different lengths. There's like 6-inch, 8-inch, 10-inch, 12-inch. I'm using 10-inch because my logs are pretty much 6-inch diameter, so that's plenty to go through the log and into the log below it. But these are insanely strong.
I built some tree houses with those. And with a screw-based bolt one as well, which are really strong. The one thing too, like if you're not familiar already with the power of big spikes like that, you might think like that's like gonna hold it forever. But the reality is actually if he lifted up on that log and pushed down the one under it, he could pull that spike right out of the bottom log. So they're not really intended for like holding it down, but to hold it in place from side to side, left to right. So that it won't roll. And then obviously once you get multiple rows of these logs stacked on top of each other, the weight just holds everything in place. But if you were like dealing with a different terrain, or you were putting in nails kind of sideways, hold something against the wall, you'd have to maybe take a slightly different approach because the nails and spikes aren't really designed for holding the stuff together. It's just holding it in place from moving.
Side, and your wall is going to lean like that, so you have to alternate fat end as you go up. So now it's as easy as this. I'm going to take this measurement in between these 2, right at my 12-foot inside diameter, which is what I wanted. So I'll go cut a log at 12 foot. This other side should be 12 foot. Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, the other thing he's kind of glancing over a little bit here is that he's already done all the kind of the debarking stage here. He would use what's called a drawing knife. Actually, I got a picture of one here. These tools here are used to you drag it across the edge of the log to peel off any bark or or shave off any inconsistencies.
In between the 2 logs where they were touching, that closed up that gap really nice. So we have about a 1/4-inch gap right here now. That's fine, we'll accept that. That'll chink. And I'm using my more crooked logs towards the bottom of the cabin. I want my prettiest logs, my straightest ones to be at eye level, where people are going to be looking most of the time. So this top log here, you can see kind of dog legs up a little bit right here. I'm going to take my axe and just chop that away just to have a little more of a level surface, so when I put my next log on, I don't have to do so much chainsawing in between.
You could get away without the chainsaw. So obviously got enough skill, enough hand tools to do that. Obviously, most of us don't have trees we can use for this. But if you do get a recreational property or a place off grid or whatever, try to find something that's got at least got some forest in it that are at least 6 to 12 inches across for building something like this. I think these he said were 12 inches or so across. Oh, maybe those are more like 10, 8 or 10.
But again, see how this bottom log, the fat end is over here, and the skinny end is over here? So on my next log, the fat end is over there, and the skinny end is over here.
Yeah, so another thing that those of you who are kind of new to trees would maybe not know, but we instinctively do know that the bottom of a tree is actually thicker than the top of the tree just by the nature that it's older. It's grown more and more quickly at the bottom. And so when you're shaving logs down for use in a cabin, you've got to kind of take that into account. So you don't just have one side that's higher than the other. You got to alternate it and flip it so that the wider end is at different sides, different rows.
We'll run a spike through here into this log, and then a couple along the way into this log, and that ties this corner together. So now this wall is being supported this way with the spike being in this wall. So it gives it the shear strength so it's not going to wobble. And it'll tie all the corners together and make it nice and strong.
There you go. He shows him doing this using the drawing knife. Pretty powerful tool. Pretty fun to use actually too. I won't go into like all the chinking stuff. You mentioned chinking earlier. The gaps between these logs. It's normal for log cabins to have gaps like that unless you really, really are shaving stuff carefully, and usually by a machine. But you will stuff in material into that crack. So, old timers would use like mosses and stuff like that, things that won't like break down or things that won't rot. Modern day, they might use synthetic materials like polyester or cotton, or even some kind of concretes and mortars and stuff like that have been used in the past. We're going to skip ahead because we're kind of making some good progress here. But you'll see he's done this fairly rapidly. Wish we had a time count to show how long he did it, but I assume it's all in the same day. And he's already got,
Balsam fir logs. That's what I built my log cabin a little bit north of here with. I mean, those are pretty straight for the most part. I mean, not perfect by any means, but a lot straighter than these. But this just goes to show you, I mean, you can make anything work. It just takes a little bit of time to hew it with the axe and kind of take out some of those crooked spots and just do whatever you have to do to get a nice tight fit. But yeah, if you can, I mean, this is probably the worst case scenario sort of thing for building a log cabin, just all this newer growth aspen. But like I said, we're still gonna have a log cabin by the time it's over, so it's all good.
Yeah, and the aspen, it grows fast, but it doesn't necessarily grow very straight. And then also you've got to remove branches and knots.
On the wall, making sure your wall is plumb. I eyeball it, but you can put like little saddles right here, nail a couple pieces of wood up so it kind of cradles it, and then that way you kind of know how straight you're staying. But I just eyeball it down and I tack one end in like this, then go to the other one and get it where I want it and tack it in down there, and then pound them all the way in.
So like as a one-person job, it's totally doable over a weekend to put something like this together. Obviously you need the wood, and obviously there's some skill involved and a little bit of material, but you can do it if you have the space and the supplies. So pretty straightforward. Yeah, another kind of fun fact around trees is the different trees grow differently in different environments. So you might be, if you're in a more tropical climate, your trees will grow fast, and that's great, but they aren't as dense. So if you get some of the more northern trees from northern US and Canada, for example, or in the Nordics, you'll have trees that take a lot longer to grow, but they're a higher density. So they're actually much better for certain types of projects. Anyway, in this case, looks like he's probably in northeastern Midwest US doing something. And hope you found that. Check out his channel, Kyle's Cabin. Looks great. I'll have to dig into some more of his stuff.